Lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer death in men and women in the United States, period. Not prostate cancer, not breast cancer, lung cancer in men and women.
The United States did something that no other country has done. So in the early 70s, Richard Nixon signed into law the Cancer Act. And since that time, the United States has put more money into cancer research than virtually all the other countries combined. We're in tough economic times. I imagine if you ask most Americans, do you want your taxes raised, they'd say no. If you were to ask them, do you want to spend more money on cancer research, they would say yes. There's a conundrum there. How do we fix that?
Now we've got this huge base of fundamental knowledge, but a lack of funding to apply that to people. So one could argue, well, at least for lung cancer, that now would be a perfect time to increase lung cancer funding.
The citizens of the state of Texas voted $3 billion to fund cancer research in 2007. They created an institute known as the Cancer Prevention and Research Institute of Texas, or CPRIT for short, to administer that $3 billion. That's a state that decided to do that, not a federal government that decided, in tough economic times. Clearly the citizens of Texas think it's something that's important. It's an issue of where our societal priorities lie. Prostate cancer in recent years has gotten quite a bit of press and a lot of funding, and yet even though it's the most common cancer diagnosis in men, it really doesn't take the lives of nearly as many men, for example, as lung cancer does.
Lung cancer has been largely underfunded, and comparing it to breast colon cancer, it is incredibly underfunded, especially for the number of people who die of the disease.
Think of the economic impact of 500,000 Americans dying each year, that many of whom are in their most productive years of life, in theory. So just economically speaking, it seems to me that it's well worth the investment.
There are many ideas that just end at curing a few mice and never make it to people, and that's unfortunate, I think.
It's obviously very encouraging that we're going to be moving more towards screening patients for lung cancer. It's also going to mean that we're finding more patients, hopefully, who can be cured earlier. We found it early, you have surgery and you're cured. But it's also I think it's going to raise a public awareness of lung cancer a little bit more too.
The person that discovered EGF and the epidermal growth factor and the epidermal growth factor receptor was a gentleman by the name of Stan Cohen. Dr. Cohen won the Nobel Prize for that discovery in 1986, but he described EGF in 1962. He later cloned the receptor for that growth factor in 1980. It wasn't until nearly 25 years later that we were able to put that knowledge into clinical practice. Let me tell you how things have changed. At the end of 2007, a group of Japanese investigators discovered another molecular abnormality in a subset of adenocarcinomas known as the EML4 ALK fusion. Less than 3 years later, a drug had been developed and demonstrated its effectiveness in treating that group of patients. 40-some years versus 3 years.
What we need to do is we need to expend resources across the spectrum, philanthropy, government, industry, in search of that biologic trigger that allows us to then devise and develop specific therapies for an individual.
The money from the government and the National Cancer Institute is dwindling.
I think there's no question that private foundations, private groups or advocacy groups that are advocating to get monies, raising research dollars, have made a very big impact on research because they raised the dollars and targeted those dollars to very specific research projects where there was a great deal of excitement in the cancer community and actually in some respects accelerated discovery, accelerated translation from the bench into the laboratory.
It's important that people recognize that if they want to support something that has a real chance of harming their family, their friends, the people that they know, it would be nice if they found a way to support lung cancer research as well as these other entities that are very well supported.
LCFA has been a leading advocacy group for lung cancer. They've given out their funds in a targeted way using what we refer to as the peer review process. And the best projects have won out, if you will, and received those dollars.
This kind of funding that I received through the Lung Cancer Foundation of America is essential in moving lung cancer research forward. So I think that, you know, this grassroots kind of collection that keeps people like me going in the lab really becomes, you know, the groundwork, the foundation, the stepping stones to a bigger research career.
We're seeing a growing advocacy group within lung cancer. Why? Because we've had successes now. And instead of having no survivors versus thousands of women who survive breast cancer, now we have hundreds, soon to be thousands, and hopefully many more lung cancer survivors. They're getting the message out. You know, this is a tough situation, but I think it really boils down to the values that we as a society think are most important.
We're at a place of momentum. Things could stop very quickly if we don't have the funding that's necessary, and that would be really devastating.